Hello, everybody. It is State Senator Mallory McMorrow coming to you on a Tuesday, which is a new day for us. It's also been a little bit of time since we have done a live stream, so please bear with us. If there are technical difficulties, we're coming back in action. So, hello. For those who are joining, this is our semi-regular live stream. We are working as we head into the fall to make this a more regular occurrence. But if you are joining us, hello. You can be streaming live on Facebook, Twitter. I refuse to call it X. I am one of those people. LinkedIn or YouTube. And if you haven't joined us on one of these before, the way that it works is this is a live stream coming to you live from our office in Lansing. So you are able to type in any questions or comments in the comment section on whatever platform you are tuning in from. Just please make sure that you type your full name in case that is not evident by your username, and let us know what city you are tuning in from so that we can make sure we get to constituent questions first. I am going to go ahead and share screen and figure out a way to put it so you can maybe see me. Let's try a few things. That makes me real small. Look, this is live production and we're all doing our best. All right, you're gonna see me in a little tiny square in the corner. So welcome back. Our new regular time for live streams is gonna be right now. We are trying to do this every other Tuesday at 2:30 in the afternoon. And if right off the bat, you're thinking, Mallory, what the heck? That's in the middle of the workday. No worries at all. These are all recorded. You can go and check back every episode on our YouTube page, on our Facebook channel. And if you have a question that you didn't get a chance to ask because you weren't live, feel free to shoot us an email and we will be sure to address it on the next episode. So we are going to go ahead and start with a summer recap because it's been a little while since we were able to check in with you. We were busy this summer. So this was the start of a new term here in January. It was the first term with Democratic trifecta control here in the state of Michigan in 40 years. And what that meant was we were busy in Lansing. So Democrats took over running committees, we took over the agenda, and in the first 6 months, we passed more bills into law than the previous 6 legislatures combined. We'll get into that in a minute, but one thing that did mean on top of it just being incredibly exciting, we were so busy in a really good way, is that it meant I spent a lot more time in Lansing, both as a committee chair, as a member of a number of committees, and it meant we weren't able to be in the district as often as I would like to be. So thank you everybody for your grace and your patience. I hope that you are proud that we are in Lansing doing what you elected us to do. But that meant that summer was the time for us to catch up at events in our district. Michigan is a full-time legislature, so we meet year-round, but we have in-district work periods in July and August to do exactly what we did, to catch up at community events, to get out and to talk to you, and we did that in force. Something that we started doing that I really love is something we like to call precinct potlucks. This was an idea we came up with during the COVID-19 pandemic when it still wasn't safe for us to gather in our normal coffee shops where we would get together for coffee hours to catch up on legislation. So we were trying to figure out in my office last term, how can we get together safely, but still be in the community? So we came up with this idea of partnering with somebody in the community within a precinct. And this person would usually offer up their backyard or their front yard or their driveway. And then our team would canvass that neighborhood and say, hey, your state senator is coming next Thursday afternoon. Please bring a snack to share and we'll get to know each other. We loved this. So we popped up all over the district in backyards and front yards. And what was so great about this is not only did we get together with neighbors and share some delicious snacks, people are showing up with things that they made, but it brought a lot of people out who wouldn't normally come to a town hall or a coffee hour. Maybe you're busy, maybe you have a job, maybe you can't come out to a coffee shop at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Monday and sit down with me. But it really lowers the barrier if I'm going to be in your neighborhood and maybe you've never met a state senator. Something really beautiful that has also happened is we have neighbors meeting each other. So there have been people who maybe have lived down the street from each other, maybe even for years, who would get together with me, with their neighbors, and talk about the issues that matter. So we did this throughout the summer as well in a few neighborhoods in Detroit, in Pleasant Ridge. We're getting together in Clawson. So these are great. Look for us popping up in your neighborhood. And it really allows us to dig into the issues that matter to you. And something that I really love as well is you can also ask anything you want. I think it really lowers kind of the intimidation factor when there's just a few of us in your neighborhood with your neighbors. So there are no dumb questions. And it's really great way to empower more people to participate in this process, get to know me, allow me to get to know you and to get to know your neighbors as well. So more to come on that. We also participated in a number of joint town halls and coffee hours with some of our state reps throughout the district, including Representative McDonald and Representative Price, which you can see some photos of here. And we also, let me jump to, I think it's on the next slide. Yes, we held our first resource fair in the new district in Detroit. It was amazing. We had great weather. We had so much fun. You can see some of the photos here. So I want to give a huge shout out to all the organizations that came out and shared resources with the community, including Councilwoman Angela Whitfield Calloway's office, the South Oakland Family YMCA, the Detroit Public Library, the Department of Emergency Management for the City of Detroit, Mothering Justice, the Secretary of State's office, the Wayne County Treasurer, and so much more. It was a blast. People came through all day. We had an ice cream social. There were backpack giveaways. We had a really awesome glitter tattoo artist who was doing tattoos for the kids and for me and Representative Scott. We may have gotten matching glitter tattoos, but it was fun. More to come. Again, we really love getting out in the community and catching up on all of the time that we haven't been able to be there in Lansing. So this was a huge success. Thank you to my team too for pulling this together. And we look forward to doing many more of these in the future. So what's next? After we had this whirlwind of a first 6 months and our summer in district period, a lot of people are wondering, what are you focused on next? So a couple of weeks ago, Governor Whitmer hosted a speech to talk about just that. What's next for the second half of the first year of this new trifecta of this term? And we're going to go through what we went over. Now, first, something we don't do nearly often enough is acknowledge the things that we've accomplished. This is especially true in this line of work. It is so hard, in a good way, to craft legislation, to get it ready to go, to meet with all the stakeholders, to go through the committee process, to get it to the floor, to get it to the governor's desk. It is a ton of work. And oftentimes we get a bill to the governor's desk and it gets signed and we move on to the next thing because there are so many things that we have to work on for you. But this was a moment for us to reflect on some of the things that we did in that first 6 months. Like I said, record-setting pace that we set here in the legislature. And we did a lot of great work based on what you told us you needed. So we repealed the retirement tax on seniors on a fixed income, which is something that I have heard for years on the doors. We became one of the states to provide free universal breakfast and lunch in schools. This is something that has proven to be incredibly successful to make sure that kids are fed and that they can focus on learning. Because if you do not have basic health and nutrition, your brain is not going to be thinking about what you're learning in the classroom. You're going to be thinking about you being hungry. And we know based on some pilots that this also lowers the stigma to kids who may need a good meal when it's available to everybody. We passed sweeping gun violence safety legislation, something we've been pushing for years, including universal background checks, safe storage, and extreme risk protection orders. We also expanded the state's Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act to explicitly protect LGBTQ Michiganders from discrimination. We expanded the Earned Income Tax Credit, otherwise known as the Working Families Tax Credit, which will lift more than 100,000 families out of of poverty. We repealed the state's 1931 abortion ban in line with what an overwhelming majority of Michiganders voted for with Prop 3 of 2022. And we became the first state in more than 60 years to repeal so-called right to work, to restore workers' collective bargaining rights here in Michigan. And in this moment, we're in red today in solidarity with the UAW. It is really important. Michigan and Detroit, we have led the way in the labor movement, and this is putting power back into the hands of workers. So that's what we did in the first 6 months. Now, what's next? Governor Whitmer announced some key issue areas for us to focus on in our fall period of the session, proposing 100% clean energy standard, paid family and medical leave, lowering the costs of healthcare and prescription drugs, and ensuring that we can really protect reproductive rights by removing some of the restrictive barriers that are still in place to prevent people from accessing abortion services. So, you're probably thinking, if you watch this at home, what does it mean when you're back to Lansing? What does your day look like? I had somebody ask me once, what do you do with all of your days off? And I wasn't quite sure what they meant, the few days that I take off. And they said, well, you only work 3 days a week for half of the day. And I got to tell you, the days that we are not in Lansing is when we actually get the most done. But what you may not know is across the country, it is not the same. In many other states, there is a mix of full-time, hybrid, and part-time legislators. I have gotten to know legislators all across the country, and there are some states where the legislature might meet for 90 days, once every 2 years. So imagine they're not even getting together for another whole year, and when they do it, it's only for 3 months. So there are pros and cons to each of these systems, but Michigan is a full-time legislature. That means that we are working year-round, and it also means that we have the staff working for you year-round. I think that is something that does not get talked about nearly often enough. Something that we spend a lot of our time on is troubleshooting issues for constituents. Things like dealing with the Unemployment Insurance Agency. If you have had an issue with DTE, which we have had a lot of troubleshooting to make sure those issues get solved, dealing with Treasury, if you have an issue with some of your payments or an issue with a bill that you need worked on. Michigan being a full-time legislature allows us to continue that work for you year-round. And as I've gotten to know legislators from around the country, this doesn't happen in other states. So you may not have those advocates working for you in the same way that our staff, this is less about me being here and more about the fact that we have the staff to work for you year-round. Session calendar. This is readily available. It's available to the public, so you can take a look at when we are going to be here in Lansing. Now, that just means when we are in session. That's when you might see us on the floor, when you see kind of that footage of all of us sitting together in the Senate chamber. These are also the days when our committees meet in Lansing. So when we're doing official business, moving bills through committee or taking final votes in the chamber, those are those dates in blue. Mondays and Fridays, and frankly, weekends and evenings, we are in the district. So we are in events, we are taking meetings, we are checking in with you, and oftentimes we are crafting the bills and working with the Legislative Services Bureau for those bills to be ready for introduction and votes during those session days. All right. I've been in this job. Somebody called me a senior senator recently, which I thought was ridiculous because I'm only in year 5 of a job. But based on term limits in Michigan, I guess that's true. So I've learned a lot in my first 4.5 years, about how to effectively engage with your legislators. I was somebody who I had participated in citizen advocacy days before I ran for office. I remember how intimidated I was. I was terrified. So I want to make sure you know ways that you can effectively approach legislators to make change, and frankly, ways that are a waste of your time. I don't want you to waste your time in doing something that frankly isn't going to work. So here's what I've learned, some do's and don'ts. Do make sure you find out who your elected officials are at every level. You can use Ballotpedia's Who Represents Me. This is especially important because districts changed in 2022. So you should get to know who is your member of Congress, Your US senators are easy. It's Gary Peters and Debbie Stabenow. They're statewide. But then as you go all the way down, you should really know who is your state senator, who's your state representative, who's your local county commissioner, if you want to get to that level, who is your city council, because that will help you understand who to contact and frankly, who you don't have to contact, who's going to be a waste of your time because they don't represent you. Follow your legislators on social media or sign up for our email newsletter. Can I put a caption here? I don't know. We're going to try something live. Did that show up? Oh, it's over there. SenatorMcMorrow.com. You can sign up for our email newsletter. This is our official Senate email newsletter where you will get updates on what legislation is moving through the legislature, interesting news from the state, anything you might need to know. Something very important, these are not campaign emails. Those are two completely different worlds, and we keep the walls up. So this is just if you want to keep in touch with us, what we're doing as your state senator and what's happening in the legislature, please sign up for the email newsletter. Write, email, or call. If you are tuned into this right now, you are already a step ahead. Something that is important if you do reach out is to identify yourself as a constituent. We have small staffs here in Lansing, even though, like I said, we are a full-time legislature, so we are very lucky to have full-time staff. We still get bombarded with hundreds, if not thousands, of emails and phone calls and messages. So when you reach out, identify yourself, your name, and your address so that we know that you are a constituent. We prioritize responding to people who are constituents. Share what you're concerned about. I would love to tell you that I have every single bill number memorized. I'm going to be honest with you, breaking news, I don't, and I highly doubt most legislators do because there are thousands of bills that get introduced every term. So if there's a specific bill that you're reaching out on, include the number, certainly, but also tell us what the bill is about, what the issue is that you care about. And if you have any expertise that is informing your outreach, let us know because you may become a resource that I may need to tap into as I make decisions on how to move forward. When you write, email, or call, be thoughtful and be a real person. The people receiving these, especially staff, are real people too. It is a hard job. Even if you're frustrated, I certainly get frustrated about things a lot of times. Just express that. Why is something important to you? Why does it matter? If there's an issue that has been damaging to you or your family, I want to know about it. But let's break through kind of the screaming or yelling at an elected official. Please don't call me a Nazi. I've been called a Nazi way too many times over the past 5 years, and it's not particularly helpful. But we do want to make sure we hear you. And what I say is you're going to get out what you put in. So if you reach out in a respectful manner, you're going to get a respectful response. And be constructive. If you have suggestions or changes, if you have documentation about something, that is always helpful. And then the last thing, you're already here, you already have bonus points, attend a town hall or office hours event. And if you're wondering, how do I find out about these things? That goes back to follow your legislator on social media and their email newsletter because every legislator runs their office a little bit differently. Some other do's, if there is a specific issue you care about and you don't necessarily know how to best engage, I've talked to a lot of people who say, I am so concerned about the environment or gun violence or education funding, but I'm also tired. I'm burned out. I don't know how to be effective. Good news is there is very likely an association or an activism group that specializes in that issue that you can join. You can join like-minded people who will help you work as a team, who have experience in advocacy. There is power in numbers. And I've listed a few examples here. For gun violence, you can join Moms Demand Action. For environmental issues, Sierra Club or the League of Conservation Voters. There are plenty of industry associations if you are a small business owner, like the Restaurant and Lodging Association, the Realtors Association, the Small Business Association, and your local political club. If you are somebody who says, I care about a lot of issues, I don't want to just join one club. I know sometimes people are turned off by politics, but the power of joining a political club or a group is that we focus on all of the issues. I ran for office because I want to work on all of the issues. So that's a way that you can spend your time. And then last but not least, Visit us in Lansing. This is your state capital. Please come and visit. It is beautiful. There is a new visitor center called Heritage Hall, which is a really lovely place to get a tour of the Capitol, learn about some of the history. But we ask that you reach out to us ahead of your visit. If students and kids are coming, let us know in advance. We are here Tuesdays through Thursdays. If we are here, we definitely want to meet your group and recognize them from the Senate floor. That's something that is very exciting when I get to do. You can stand in the gallery and I can recognize you, and everybody will stand up and clap. So if you're having a bad day, there's nothing like getting recognized and applauded by a group of strangers. And sometimes, if the schedules align, I might even be able to bring you onto the Senate floor, which is something you are only able to do with a senator. So you can get a really cool picture that nobody else will get. All right, we're moving on. Less effective. This is the how to not spend your time. Form letters or emails. There are a ton of online petitions like change.org or Action Network, and I'm going to tell you a story. So, in my first year in office, we tried to respond to every single email or phone call or message that we got, including form emails. We replied to one, and a guy called us back, and he was so angry. He demanded to know where we got his contact information and to take us off the list because he was apparently drunk the night before, filled out a form, and did not remember. So we've made a policy in our office. We do tally form emails if you fill out a form. But again, thinking of that mentality of you're going to get out what you put in. If you've taken 30 seconds to fill out a form or just click, send this to my legislator, we're going to tally it. We do tally them in our office. We count all of these that we receive, but we no longer respond to them directly. Like I said, please do not threaten or harass people. This goes at every level. And DMing or tagging your legislator on social media is also not an effective way to reach out. I am, probably to my detriment, very active on social media. Not every legislator is. These are not official forms of communication, and they are also likely not seen by staff. So, based on how these algorithms change, if you tag me, I might not even see it. And the worst feeling in the world, this happened, somebody was trying to DM me on Instagram for a while about an issue. If it goes into the spam folder and I miss it, and then you finally reach out via phone and said, I've been trying to contact you for months, I feel horrible. We don't want to miss your outreach. So definitely engage with us on social media. That's a great way to kind of share stories and engage with each other, but it's not an official means of communication. So call, email, write us a letter so that we can make sure our staff sees it and that we can get back to you. And then if you do come in person, something that has been happening, especially since things have opened up following the COVID-19 pandemic, is coming with massive crowds. We have small offices. We want to make sure that we can have a productive meeting with you. But if there are 50 people who show up unannounced, it's really overwhelming on staff. You won't fit in our office. And then it makes it really challenging to have a meaningful conversation about the issue that you are there to meet for. So certainly come to Lansing with a large group. But what we've seen be really effective is those groups splitting up into smaller groups and going to legislators' offices with scheduled meetings so that A, we can make sure that we're going to meet with you and that we have a productive conversation. Whew, we have a lot to catch up on. Okay, good news from the 8th District. We have a lot of good news. I mean, if we were here just talking about good news, we would have been here the whole time. So this weekend, our district has 2 amazing art fairs. At least there may be some others. If you know of other art fairs, let us know. Birmingham is hosting Common Ground's 49th annual Birmingham Street Art Fair on Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. The fair will showcase 100 juried artists and is an annual fundraiser for Common Ground, which is a 24-hour service agency providing a lifeline for youth, adults, and families in crisis. They're an excellent organization, definitely worth supporting. If you want to bop down to Ferndale, the Funky Ferndale Art Fair is happening at 9 Mile and Woodward on Friday from 3 to 7:30 p.m., Saturday from 10 to 7:30 p.m., and Sunday from 11 a.m. to 6. There will be 140 juried artists and authors, and you will have an opportunity to see Lil Amal, who is a 12-foot puppet of a Syrian refugee child who has traveled to 13 countries, carrying a message of hope for displaced people everywhere, especially children who have been separated from their families. I love projects like this. They get to like see the world. It's just a really fun thing to participate with. Some history happening right here in our district. At the Royal Oak Cemetery, the grave sites of Elizabeth and Henry Hamer, who were two of Royal Oak's first Black settlers, are now members of the National Underground Railroad's Network to Freedom. Serious history running right through our district. The program, which is a part of the National Park Service, honors, preserves, and promotes the history of resistance to enslavement through escape and flight. The Network to Freedom helps to advance the idea that all human beings embrace the right to self-determination and freedom from oppression. Please go visit this. We walk through the cemetery. It sounds pretty morbid, but it's actually a very, very peaceful place to walk through, and there's a lot of deer that you can check out, but it's really just incredible to walk on the same footsteps of history being made right in our community. It's just really, really moving. And then last, but certainly not least, on September 14th, Clawson High School dedicated its new gym court to Alexandria Verner. Alex graduated from Clawson in 2020, where she played volleyball, basketball, and softball. And I know everybody who knew her just said how much of a light she was to everybody she touched. She was a junior at MSU and was sadly one of the victims of the February shooting on campus of this past year. Her signature and jersey number 24 are now featured on the sidelines of the new gym floor. And after the moving dedication and unveiling, Clawson hosted their first volleyball game on Alex Verner Court, honoring this incredible young woman. So much. We had so much to get through in so little time. So with that, I am going to bring on Emily, my chief of staff, and a friendly reminder to anybody who has stayed with us for the last 26 minutes, a thank you, or to anybody who's tuning in. It is now time for Q&A. So reminder, you can type a question or comment on whatever platform you are on. Just make sure to use your full name and identify what city you are tuning in from. So Emily, welcome back.
Thank you. Hello, everybody.
And how are we looking in the comments today?
We have several hellos, which is always great after a long time. So thanks for that, everyone. We have a constituent from Royal Oak, Dick Herbst. He said hello. We have David Walaka. I'm not sure if he's a constituent or not, but he shared Notre Dame is undefeated. Wear a green blazer next week. So thank you for that.
Go Irish.
Chris Henry asked about the UAW strike. Is there anything new that's going on that folks might want to know about?
Chris, thank you for the question. It is really incredible how much national news and international news is covering this moment right now. So a few days ago, last week, the UAW president, Shawn Fain, announced that the UAW would be going on what they are calling a stand-up strike. So it is the first time in history that the UAW is striking all three of the Detroit three at once. That's GM, Ford, and Stellantis in a more targeted strike. So it wasn't every UAW worker who went on strike. It is various different locals, including Michigan Assembly, the Ford plant in Downriver. I stopped by and spoke with some of the workers over the weekend. What we are hearing from UAW is that there have been productive conversations over the weekend with the automakers. President Biden came out with a statement saying he supports the workers. President Obama posted a statement, reminding everybody that the federal government bailed out the Detroit automakers during the recession, which workers I talked to said that was absolutely necessary. The UAW made a lot of concessions back at that time, knowing that we needed the industry to survive. Now the industry is surviving and it's thriving. Profits have gone through the roof, as have stock buybacks. And really what the workers are fighting for is that their increases to wages are in line with those in the executive positions, the CEO. So it's moving in the right direction. Workers are still on strike. And more to come there, and we'll be sure to post any updates as we have them.
Thank you. We have a question from actually a former Ferndale resident. So former constituent is in Lansing now. And this is more, it's a federal thing, which you might be able to explain a little bit, but any update on the likelihood of a government shutdown? So that's happening at the federal level, and that's Mary Ann's question.
Ooh, Marianne. Well, we miss you in Ferndale already, but we are coming to you live from Lansing, so we are, I guess, very close to you at this moment. It's really frustrating. The federal government, something that people are so frustrated with the fact that it seems like nothing happens in Washington, and Washington is just gridlock. And this is true at this moment. So there was a potential vote for a short term extension that I know Speaker McCarthy, who's the Republican Speaker of the House, had offered to put forward. But now Matt Gaetz, who is a far right congressman, has apparently introduced a resolution to remove Speaker McCarthy. So Speaker McCarthy has removed that temporary extension. So it is looking more and more likely that there will be a government shutdown, which is completely avoidable and beyond frustrating. So the makeup in the federal government right now is Republicans control the Congress, the House of Representatives, Democrats control the Senate and the presidency. So in divided government, you have to work together. We need the government to function. I know that many of our federal colleagues are working towards a resolution, but we will certainly share more as we have it. And if there is a government shutdown on the federal level, we will be on hand to bring you updates on what that means on the state level and what we can do to support as well.
Thank you. Okay, that's what we have for questions. I know it's a new time for folks, so I'm sure that's a little bit of it. But that's all I've got.
Perfect. Emily, thank you. I'll let you go. Perfect. Well, thank you everybody for coming back in. Thanks for tuning in. Like I said, we're going to try to make this a more regular occurrence. We were adjusting to the new workload of the new majority. We learned a lot in the first 6 months. So this will be our regular time every 2 weeks. So 2:30 p.m. on Tuesdays. All of these will be recorded. You can check in on them after the fact if you can't make that time work. And if you have any questions, feel free to shoot us an email. I'm going to drop that right there. Wow, that looks tiny on my screen. I hope you can see it. And we will always be able to answer it in future episodes. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning back in. And we will see you next time.